The sonar operator aboard the research vessel Nautilus frowned at her display, adjusting the frequency range for the third time. Dr. Maya Patel had been mapping deep-sea thermal vents for the past 6 years, but she'd never seen readings like these before. The acoustic signatures were too regular, too precise to be natural formations. "Captain Torres," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "You need to see this." The captain made her way across the bridge, her weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of the monitors. The reading showed massive structures, perfectly geometric, nestled in the darkness of the Pacific's Hadal Zone. They stretched for kilometers, defying everything known about deep-sea construction. "How long have these been here?" Torres asked, her fingers tracing the outline on the screen. "That's just it," Maya replied, pulling up historical data. "We've mapped this region before. Last year, this was empty ocean floor." She paused, letting the implications sink in. "Someone, or something, built this in less than 12 months. Within hours, similar reports began flooding in from research vessels and underwater monitoring stations across the globe. Structures had appeared in the Mariana Trench, the Puerto Rico Trench, and dozens of other deep ocean locations. The pattern was undeniable: Earth's oceans had been quietly invaded. The first attack came 3 days later. Singapore's Marina Bay erupted in a cascade of water as massive biomechanical forms rose from the depths. They moved with impossible grace for their size, their outer shells reflecting the morning sun like polished obsidian. The Mercerians, as they would later be called, had revealed themselves. Admiral Chen Wei stood at the command center of the Singapore Naval Base, watching in horror as conventional weapons proved useless against the invaders' advanced shielding technology. Missiles exploded harmlessly against invisible barriers. Railgun rounds were absorbed by fields of strange energy that rippled like water. "Their armor," one of his analysts noted, "it's not just technology. It's biological. These things evolved in the crushing pressures of deep ocean environments. Our weapons are like paper cuts to them." The Mercerians' purpose became clear as they systematically targeted coastal defense installations, communication hubs, and power plants. They weren't interested in wholesale destruction, this was surgical precision, meant to disable rather than destroy. Earth was being systematically disarmed. But humanity's salvation would come from an unexpected source. Dr. Sarah Chen, a marine biologist studying whale communication at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, noticed something peculiar during the Singapore attack. The Mercerians' movements changed when naval vessels activated their active sonar systems. It was subtle, but there was a definite reaction, almost like a flinch. "Play it again," she instructed her assistant, analyzing the footage frame by frame. The correlation was undeniable. Every time a sonar ping swept through the water, the aliens' movements became slightly erratic, their formations momentarily disrupted. She immediately contacted Admiral Chen, her father, who was still coordinating Singapore's defense efforts. "Dad, I think I found something. Their biology, it's adapted to deep ocean pressure, but that same adaptation might be their weakness. They've evolved to be incredibly sensitive to sound waves." The Admiral's response was immediate. "How do we weaponize it? Their nervous system seems to resonate at specific frequencies. If we can determine the right combination." She left the sentence hanging, already running calculations in her head. Within hours, Dr. Chen was heading a hastily assembled team of marine biologists, acoustic engineers, and military specialists. They worked around the clock, analyzing every piece of data from the Singapore attack and subsequent incursions in Manila and Jakarta. The Mercerians continued their methodical advance, emerging from the depths to strike coastal targets before disappearing back into the ocean's darkest reaches. Conventional navies were helpless, reduced to watching as alien vessels moved with impunity through their waters. But humanity had one advantage: this was our ocean. We had spent centuries mapping its contours, studying its properties, and most importantly, learning to use sound to navigate its depths. While the Mercerians had evolved in the legendary black oceans of their homeworld, they had never encountered a species that had mastered acoustic warfare. The breakthrough came when Dr. Chen's team discovered that the aliens' biomechanical shells, so effective against conventional weapons, actually amplified certain sound frequencies. What made them nearly invulnerable to physical attacks made them extraordinarily vulnerable to precisely calibrated sonic pulses. As Dr. Chen prepared to present her findings to an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council, reports came in of massive alien movements near the Mariana Trench. The Mercerians were preparing for something big. "We don't have much time," she told the assembled leaders, her voice firm despite her exhaustion. "But we have something they never expected. They thought our oceans were safe, that we were primitive beings who could be easily subdued. They never considered that our understanding of oceanic acoustics could become a weapon." She brought up a simulation showing how modified sonar arrays could be used to create debilitating sound fields. "We can turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. The same adaptations that let them survive the crushing depths make them vulnerable to our sonic weapons." As the Security Council debated, monitoring stations detected more alien vessels rising from the depths. The Mercerians had launched their main offensive, confident in their superiority over what they considered a primitive species. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in our weapons or technology, but in our ability to turn knowledge into power. The oceans they thought would protect them were about to become their greatest nightmare. Dr. Chen looked at the latest sensor readings and allowed herself a grim smile. The real war was about to begin, and for the first time since the invasion started, humanity had hope. "Send the implementation orders," she instructed her team. "It's time to show them why you should never underestimate human ingenuity." Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 36 hours, but the equations dancing across her holographic display kept her mind sharp. The Woods Hole Laboratory, once a quiet research facility, now hummed with the energy of a military command center. Engineers and scientists worked alongside naval officers, racing against time to perfect their acoustic weapon system. "The frequency modulation is still off," she muttered, adjusting parameters on her simulation. "Too high, and will affect marine life. Too low, and it won't penetrate their outer shells." Behind her, Admiral Chen watched the latest test results scroll across the screens. The Mercerians had struck again, this time hitting Mumbai's port facilities. Each attack revealed more about their capabilities, and their limitations. "The Chinese Navy reported something interesting," the admiral said, pulling up a tactical report. "During their last engagement, they managed to record the aliens' own communication signals. It's unlike anything we've ever heard." Sarah's fingers flew across the interface, importing the new data. The alien communications were beautiful in their complexity, a symphony of layered frequencies that seemed to carry massive amounts of information in microsecond bursts. "That's it," she breathed, recognition dawning. "They're not just sensitive to sound. They literally think in acoustics. Their entire neural network is tuned to process complex sound waves. No wonder our sonar affects them." The revelation led to a breakthrough. Instead of trying to create simple destructive frequencies, they could design sound patterns that would interfere with the aliens' own communication and neural patterns. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a way to shut down their entire command structure. The Global Oceanic Defense Initiative, GODI, was formed within days. Every major naval power contributed resources and expertise. Submarine fleets were retrofitted with new acoustic generators. Coastal defense platforms were modified to project precisely calibrated sound fields into the surrounding waters. But the Mercerians weren't idle. Their attacks intensified, as if sensing humanity's growing resistance. Jakarta fell. Manila was partially evacuated. The alien vessels seemed to be herding coastal populations inland, clearing strategic areas for some larger purpose. The first test of the new defense system came sooner than anyone expected. GODI's tracking network detected massive movement near the Challenger Deep, the beginning of what looked like a major offensive aimed at Hawaii. "They're not even trying to hide anymore," Admiral Chen observed, studying the tactical display at Godey's hastily established headquarters in Pearl Harbor. "They want us to see them coming." Sarah checked the final calibrations on the acoustic defense grid they'd installed around the Hawaiian Islands. The technology was untested in actual combat, but simulations showed promising results. Now they would find out if their understanding of Mercerian biology was correct. The alien vessels emerged at dawn, their massive forms breaking the surface like ancient sea monsters. But this time, humanity was ready. As the first Mercerian bioships moved into range, Sarah gave the order. The ocean itself seemed to shudder as dozens of synchronized acoustic arrays activated. The sound was barely perceptible to human ears, a deep thrumming that made teeth itch and eyes water. But the effect on the aliens was immediate and devastating. The leading vessels suddenly lost formation, their graceful movements becoming erratic. Several smaller craft simply stopped, floating listlessly as the carefully designed frequencies disrupted their neural networks. The larger ships attempted to press forward, but their coordinated attack dissolved into chaos. "It's working," Sarah whispered, watching the tactical display. The alien fleet was in disarray, their sophisticated communication network overwhelmed by the targeted acoustic interference. "Increase power to Sector 7. Focus on their command vessel." The massive alien flagship, a creature of metal and flesh larger than an aircraft carrier, began to list to one side. Its defensive shields, so effective against conventional weapons, did nothing to stop the penetrating sound waves. The outer shell, evolved to withstand crushing ocean pressures, actually amplified the devastating frequencies. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had stopped a major Mercerian offensive. The alien fleet retreated in disorder, leaving behind several disabled vessels that would provide invaluable research material. But amid the celebration, Sarah noticed something troubling in the data streams. The Mercerians had attempted to adapt their shields during the battle, modulating their frequencies to counter the acoustic attack. They hadn't succeeded, but the attempt showed an alarming ability to learn and adjust. "They'll be back," she told her father as they watched recovery teams secure the abandoned alien vessels. "And next time, they'll be better prepared." Admiral Chen nodded grimly. "Then we'll need to be better too. The acoustic defense worked, but it's just the beginning. We need to take the fight to them." Analysis of the captured alien technology revealed something unexpected. The Mercerians hadn't just been studying Earth recently, they had been observing humanity for centuries. Their deep-sea bases showed evidence of long-term occupation, hidden beneath the waves as human civilization developed above. "They've been playing a long game," Sarah realized, examining the alien data archives. "All this time, they were waiting, watching, learning about us. But they never considered that we might learn about them too." As Godey began worldwide deployment of the acoustic defense systems, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were still missing something crucial. The Mercerian strategy seemed focused on coastal regions, but their true objective remained unclear. One thing was certain, humanity's first victory had changed the nature of the war. The oceans were no longer just the aliens' highway to invasion, they had become a battleground where human ingenuity would face off against Mercerian biological superiority. And somewhere in the darkest depths, in bases hidden from human detection, the aliens were undoubtedly planning their response. The real war was just beginning. Under the crushing pressure of the Philippine Sea, the USS Barracuda glided silently through the absolute darkness. Commander James Rodriguez watched the sonar display with practiced intensity, tracking the alien signatures that pulsed at the edge of their detection range. "Multiple contacts," his sonar officer whispered, maintaining the submarine's ultra-quiet protocol. "Bearing 270, depth 18,000 feet. They're moving in a search pattern." The Barracuda was one of the first submarines retrofitted with Godey's new acoustic weapon systems. Its traditional weapons remained, but the real power lay in the arrays of sonic projectors that now studded its hull. 3 months of successful coastal defense had forced the Mercerians to adapt their tactics. Instead of surface attacks, they now engaged in a deadly underwater ballet of hunt and evade. "They're looking for something," Rodriguez mused, studying the alien movement patterns. "This is the third sweep of this sector this week." The Mercerians had withdrawn their forces from most coastal regions after the Hawaiian defeat, but human victory celebrations proved premature. Deep-sea monitoring stations detected increased activity in the ocean's trenches. Something big was brewing in the darkness. "New contact." The sonar officer's voice cracked with urgency. "Massive signature, unlike anything in our database. It's coming up from below." Rodriguez felt his blood run cold as the tactical display updated. The new contact was enormous, larger than any Mercerian vessel they'd encountered. It rose from the depths like a leviathan, its biomechanical shell pulsing with internal energy. "Battle stations," he ordered, his voice steady despite the tension. "Prepare acoustic countermeasures, but hold fire. Let's see what we're dealing with." The alien vessel ascended past them, apparently unaware of their presence. The Barracuda's advanced stealth systems, combined with their position in the vessel's acoustic shadow, kept them hidden. As it passed, their sensors captured detailed readings of its structure. "Sir," his science officer reported, "that thing's not just a ship. It's some kind of mobile processing facility. Those patterns in its hull, they're identical to the structures we found in their deep-sea bases." The pieces suddenly clicked into place. The coastal attacks, the systematic clearing of certain ocean regions, the increased activity in the trenches, it was all part of a larger operation. Rodriguez made a decision. Send a tight beam transmission to Godi Command. Include all sensor data. Then plot an intercept course. We're following that thing. For 3 days, the Barracuda stalked the alien vessel through the ocean's depths. It led them on a winding path through underwater mountain ranges and across abyssal plains, finally descending toward the Mariana Trench. What they found there changed everything. The alien facility sprawled across the trench floor like a bioluminescent city. Massive structures rose from the darkness, their surfaces alive with shifting patterns of light. Mercerian vessels moved between them in complex patterns, carrying materials harvested from Earth's oceans. "My God," Rodriguez breathed, watching the sensor feeds. "This isn't just a base. It's a full-scale colonization effort." Further analysis revealed the true scale of the Mercerian operation. They weren't just invading Earth, they were terraforming its oceans, gradually altering the chemical composition of vast water masses to make them more suitable for their own biology. The Barracuda's discovery triggered a massive response from Godi. Within days, a coordinated attack plan was developed. Submarine fleets from every major navy converged on the Mariana Trench, preparing for what would become the largest underwater battle in human history. Dr. Chen's acoustic weapons had proven effective against individual vessels, but this would be different. The entire alien facility was protected by overlapping fields of sonic energy. The Mercerians had learned from their defeats and adapted their defenses. "We'll need something bigger," she told the Godi Council. "Something they can't defend against." She proposed a daring plan, using the Earth's own seismic activity to generate acoustic waves powerful enough to overwhelm any defense. The risk was enormous. Triggering controlled seismic events near the Mariana Trench could have catastrophic consequences. But as reports came in of changing ocean chemistry and dying marine ecosystems, it became clear that the alternative was worse. Commander Rodriguez and the Barracuda would play a crucial role. They knew the approach routes, the blind spots in the alien defenses. They would lead the first wave of the attack, clearing the way for the main assault force. As the submarine fleets moved into position, Rodriguez studied the faces of his crew. They understood the stakes. This wasn't just about defending Earth's surface anymore, it was about preserving the very nature of its oceans. The Mercerians had hidden in Earth's waters for centuries, slowly preparing for their endgame. Now, humanity would show them that those same waters could become their worst nightmare. "All hands," Rodriguez announced over the submarine's comm system, "prepare for combat operations. We're about to remind these aliens why humanity rules the waves." In the darkness of the deep, the greatest underwater battle in history was about to begin. And its outcome would determine not just the fate of Earth's oceans, but the future of both species. The assault on the Mariana Trench began with silence. Dozens of submarines, their acoustic signatures masked by advanced dampening technology, descended into the darkness. Commander Rodriguez watched his tactical display as the Barracuda led the vanguard, each vessel precisely positioned according to Dr. Chen's calculations. "Seismic charges armed," his weapons officer reported. "Waiting for your command." Above them, on the surface, a fleet of research vessels disguised as regular oceanographic expeditions had positioned themselves in a vast circle around the trench. Each carried equipment designed to amplify and direct the coming shockwaves. Dr. Chen stood aboard the lead ship, monitoring real-time data from deep-sea sensors. "Energy spike." The Barracuda's sensor officer called out. "They've detected us." The ocean erupted with alien activity. Mercerian vessels rose from the depths like a swarm of deadly sea creatures, their biomechanical forms pulsing with defensive energy. The battle for Earth's oceans had begun. "All vessels, execute pattern Delta," Rodriguez ordered. The human fleet split apart in a precisely choreographed maneuver, creating acoustic interference patterns that confused the alien sensory systems. The first wave of Mercerian attackers struck like a tsunami. Their weapons, concentrated beams of pressurized water hot enough to cut through submarine hulls, lanced through the darkness. But the human vessels were ready, their hulls now coated with materials developed from studying captured alien technology. "Seismic charges, deploy." The ocean floor shuddered as the charges detonated in sequence, creating carefully calculated pressure waves. The Mercerian's sonic defenses, designed to counter direct acoustic attacks, couldn't adapt to the complex harmonics created by the interaction of seismic waves and Dr. Chen's acoustic generators. But the aliens revealed their own surprise. The massive processing facility that Rodriguez had tracked began to transform, its sections reconfiguring into what could only be described as a gigantic weapon. "All ships, evasive action." Rodriguez barely finished the order before a massive pulse of energy erupted from the facility, turning the surrounding water into plasma. 2 submarines vanished instantly, their crews lost to the depths. Dr. Chen's voice crackled over the secure channel. "The facility, it's not just processing seawater. They're extracting deuterium. That's what this was all about. They're using Earth's oceans as fuel." The revelation changed everything. The Mercerians hadn't come to conquer Earth, they needed its oceans for power generation. Each transformed section of ocean was being stripped of its deuterium content, gradually turning Earth's waters into dead zones incapable of supporting life. "We can't let them complete the extraction," Chen insisted. "The damage to Earth's marine ecosystems would be irreversible." Rodriguez made a decision that would alter the course of the battle. "Barracuda actual to all ships, fall back to minimum safe distance. We're going in." His submarine dove deeper, heading straight for the heart of the alien facility. The Mercerian defensive screen was formidable, but they had one weakness: their own communication signals created gaps in their defensive network, gaps that a skilled commander could exploit. "Sir," his XO warned, "at this depth, if we detonate our remaining charges, the hull will collapse," Rodriguez finished. "I know. But if we can trigger a chain reaction in their deuterium processing systems." The Barracuda slipped through the alien defenses, using their own sonic patterns as cover. Warning alerts screamed as the hull groaned under pressures it was never designed to withstand. They were deep in the trench now, deeper than any human vessel had ever operated. Multiple contacts closing. The sensor officer's voice was tense. "They've spotted us." Rodriguez watched the alien vessels converging on their position. The Barracuda's acoustic weapons blazed, creating devastating interference patterns that disrupted the nearest attackers. But more kept coming. "Charges armed," the weapons officer reported. "Sir, it's been an honor." Rodriguez looked at his crew, men and women who understood exactly what this mission meant. "The honor has been mine. For Earth." The Barracuda's final act was spectacular. The seismic charges, detonated directly beneath the alien facility's main processing core, created a catastrophic chain reaction. The deuterium extraction system overloaded, its containment fields collapsed, and the entire structure began to implode. Dr. Chen watched from the surface as massive shockwaves rippled through the ocean. The Mercerian facility, their hidden base of centuries, collapsed in on itself, triggering underwater landslides that would reshape the topography of the Mariana Trench. The remaining alien vessels, their primary mission compromised and their leadership structure in chaos, began to retreat. Humanity had won, but the victory came at a terrible cost. The Barracuda and her crew were never found. The extreme depths and the violence of the facility's destruction left no trace of their final sacrifice. But their actions had saved not just humanity, but the very oceans that made Earth unique in the known galaxy. In the aftermath, as the surviving ships surfaced and the full magnitude of what had happened began to sink in, Dr. Chen stared at the dark waters. Somewhere in the vast network of deep-sea trenches, the remaining Mercerians were undoubtedly regrouping, planning their next move. But something fundamental had changed. They now knew that Earth's oceans, which they had seen as merely a resource to be harvested, were defended by a species willing to die to protect them. The war wasn't over, but its nature had changed forever. 1 year after the Battle of the Mariana Trench, Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the inauguration of the Global Oceanic Defense Grid. The massive array of acoustic generators and monitoring stations now encircled the Earth's oceans, a testament to humanity's determination to protect its waters. "We built this not just as a weapon," she told the assembled dignitaries, "but as a reminder. Our oceans are no longer just Earth's lifeblood, they're our first line of defense against whatever lies in the depths of space." The Mercerian threat had transformed human civilization. Coastal cities now bristled with sonic defense towers. Every major nation maintained a fleet of acoustically armed submarines. The oceans, once seen as barriers between nations, had become a unifying force for humanity. The last major Mercerian force had retreated 3 months after the Mariana battle, their massive ships rising from the depths like leviathans admitting defeat. Their departure was captured by satellites and witnessed by millions, a final reminder that humanity was not alone in the universe. But they had left something behind. In the ruins of their destroyed facility, research teams found data cores containing centuries of accumulated knowledge. The Mercerians had studied Earth's oceans in incredible detail, mapping currents and chemistry that human science had barely begun to understand. "They gave us a gift," Dr. Chen explained to Admiral Chen as they reviewed the alien data. "Not intentionally, but this knowledge, it's advancing our marine science by decades." The discovery of the Mercerians' deuterium extraction technology had another unexpected effect. Human scientists, studying the recovered alien equipment, realized they could modify the process. Instead of destroying marine ecosystems, the adapted technology could help clean and restore damaged ocean environments. Deep in the Pacific, at the site where Commander Rodriguez and the Barracuda made their final stand, a memorial now stood on the ocean floor. A simple structure of advanced materials, designed to withstand the crushing pressures, its surface emanated a constant, gentle acoustic pulse, a reminder of the sacrifice that saved Earth's oceans. But the greatest changes were happening in the scientific community. The revelation that an advanced aquatic civilization had hidden in Earth's oceans for centuries sparked a revolution in marine exploration. New research vessels, equipped with technology derived from Mercerian designs, began probing deeper into the ocean's mysteries. "We're finding things we never imagined," a young oceanographer told Dr. Chen during a deep-sea expedition. They were testing a new type of acoustic imaging system that could penetrate the darkest trenches. It's like the oceans are revealing their secrets to us now that we've proven worthy of defending them. The Global Oceanic Defense Initiative evolved beyond its military origins, becoming an organization dedicated to both protecting and understanding Earth's waters. GOTY vessels now patrolled the depths, not just watching for alien threats, but mapping unknown regions, discovering new species, and helping to preserve marine ecosystems. 5 years after the invasion, humanity had established its first permanent deep-sea habitats. Using modified versions of Mercerian pressure adaptation technology, these underwater cities became centers of research and innovation. They stood as proof that humans could not only defend the oceans but live in harmony with them. Dr. Chen often found herself at the observation dome of Deep Station Alpha, watching the bioluminescent life forms that drifted through the abyssal darkness. The station's sensors constantly monitored for any sign of returning Mercerian activity, but they had detected nothing since the retreat. "They'll come back someday," Admiral Chen said during one of his visits to the station. "Maybe not the Mercerians, but someone else who sees our oceans as a resource to be taken." Sarah nodded, but she wasn't worried. "And we'll be ready. Not just with weapons, but with understanding. We're no longer just surface dwellers who happen to have deep oceans. We're becoming a true oceanic civilization." In the years that followed, that transformation continued. Humanity expanded its presence beneath the waves, developing technologies and societies adapted to deep-sea life. The oceans, once seen as Earth's last frontier, became humanity's gateway to the stars. And somewhere in the vast darkness between worlds, the Mercerians carried a crucial message to other spacefaring species. Earth's oceans might seem like a tempting prize, but they were defended by a species that had learned to turn the very depths into their greatest strength. The sound of human victory continued to echo through the oceans, a constant reminder that in defending their waters, humanity had discovered its true potential. The species that had started as land-dwelling primates had finally embraced its destiny as guardians of the blue planet. And in the deepest trenches, where pressure crushed and darkness reigned, the gentle pulse of human sonar technology kept its endless watch, ready to defend Earth's waters from whatever threats might emerge from the endless void of space.